Hey everyone, welcome to Question Period Rewind. I'm Donna Skelly, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly of Ontario. Let's go back to 1986. That's the year when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted its first batch of musicians. Among them, the iconic Ray Charles, Buddy Holly, and of course, Elvis Presley. Tina Turner was also receiving praise in California, where her star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame was revealed. And if you turned on the radio, there's a good chance you'd hear Madonna's #1 hit, Papa Don't Preach. But now, let's tune into the conversations the MPPs were having in Question Period.
Oral questions. The Leader of the Opposition.
I have a question for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology. I wonder if he could tell us what the profit margin of the Goodyear plant in Etobicoke is.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have reviewed briefly those figures, but we are waiting for further details. We did meet this morning with the President and Chief Executive Officer of Canada, and we will be meeting with some of their top officials who will be coming in from Akron, Ohio tomorrow.
Supplementary.
Well, now, having met with the President this morning, I'm sure he indicated to you either that the Goodyear plant was profitable or that it was not profitable. Could you share with the House what he told you about the profitability of that particular operation?
Minister.
The President of the Canadian Corporation mentioned that they had been part of a bid, or a company was going to be taken over by a foreign concern, and that because of the high equity debt that they would have to relook at some of their operations throughout the world. Again, we will be looking for clarification on that tomorrow from the people from the States.
Final supplementary.
Minister, there are 1,500 workers out there who believe what they are told when they hear that that particular operation has been a profitable one. Now, my simple question for the Minister, facing 1,500 job losses in the west end of this municipality, is this. Can you tell us today, 3 days after the announcement, whether that particular operation is a profitable operation or whether it is not? That's the simple question, and by this afternoon, you should know whether that's a profit-making enterprise or not. Is it or isn't it?
Minister.
Here. Yes or no? If you were to look at the figures, it would appear that the operation is a profitable one, and we will be asking for further details and confirmation of those facts tomorrow when we meet with those officials.
New question.
Whoop-dee-doo.
My,
Order. New question.
My second question is for the Minister of Industry and Trade again. If in fact it is a profitable operation, would the Minister explain to us why his government would have the slightest reservation in standing up today and saying that you will spend whatever monies are necessary to keep a profitable operation in place in the west end of this municipality right away, and what circumstances you would follow to get that done?
Order.
Try not to smile.
Order. Order. Once again, I'll just wait. Order. Order. Minister. Order.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, I did not hear the last part of that question.
You didn't want to hear it. Stop.
Order.
I want to restate the question for the Minister. If this is a profitable operation, could the Minister explain to us why, having spent $45 million in loans, $10 million in grant for Suzuki, $35 million and $15 million in grants for Toyota, you would have any reservation whatsoever about giving a great deal of money to keep this profitable operation open.
Hear, hear.
Minister?
Well, first of all, we do regret very much the decision of that company to close that plant or to talk about closing it. And we're very concerned about the job losses that are going to happen there. In our discussions this morning with the President and the Chief Financial Officers, we touched on the subject of some type of money help to keep either that plant going or relocation for a new green plant location. Those discussions will go on tomorrow.
Supplementary?
I think what the 1,500 workers are going to want to know is something very simple, Minister. You have spent $55 million for Suzuki. You have laid out $50 million for Toyota. And the 1,500 laid-off workers want simply to know if you are prepared to give a commitment to spend money to keep open a profitable plant. The answer is simple. Either you're prepared to do it or you're not. Which is it, Minister?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, we are prepared to look at all our alternatives.
Final supplementary?
My final question to the minister is this: Are you prepared to share with the House this afternoon the reasons why your leader said on April 11th, 1985, in a visit which I'm sure you'll recall, to the Burns Meats Limited plant, which also had been closed, that a government formed by him would, 1, require mandatory corporate consultation, 2, would amend the Employment Standards Act to provide mandatory severance pay for all employees employed more than 1 year, 3, remove the 26-week severance pay ceiling, and 4, provide interim funding until private financing or worker equity can be raised to save profitable operations.
Remember all that, David?
Could you explain why 18 months after that visit to this closed plant, your government has refused to move on any one of those 4 things, all 4 of which would have helped the 1,500 laid-off workers at Goodyear?
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition seems to think that he is the only one that has concern about any workers that are laid off in this province. Let me tell you that our Premier and this government are also very worried about any layoff, and we will intend to do what we can to keep them working.
New question? New question. The member for York South.
Mr. Speaker, a question to the Minister of Industry and Trade. Minister, the reality is that the casino economy, of which your party and the other party to my right are such able apologists, has in fact victimized 1,500 workers at the same time as $93 million in profit is going to Sir James Goldsmith, who simply purchased shares and then had them bought out. If that isn't an example of an economy that's lost its sense of moral integrity, I don't know what is. The question that I'd like to ask the minister is simply this. I'd like to ask the minister, why has the government not introduced any kind of legislation with respect to plant closure in terms of justification, information, some kind of leverage over these companies who trade in chips, blue chips and other chips, and who trade in people's lives? When are you going to introduce legislation that will finally mean that when you meet with the president of a corporation, you're not cap in hand, but you're able to do something about it?
Minister.
I don't believe that we went cap in hand to them at all. I was very upset, as were the other members of this government, when we found out through the news releases on Friday afternoon that they planned to have this closure. We called the president and told him that we wanted to speak to him this morning, and we have also told the people from the United States that we didn't want to talk to them later this week or next week, but that we wanted to talk to them tomorrow. I do not also appreciate people being laid off because of corporate takeover, and we will examine this matter very closely and deal with it as we see fit.
Well, let's see just what you're prepared to do about this casino economy. This is a casino economy in which $2.6 billion has been expended in an utterly worthless economic activity, trying to take over a company and then fighting the takeover. And the people that are paying the price for that worthless economy, of which you people have been such effective apologists for so many years, the people who are the victims are the workers. My question again, specifically to the minister, is why do you not have any kind of legislation with respect to plant closure, requiring justification, requiring any kind of protection for the workers, so that when you talk to these companies, you are not simply down on your knees, but you're able, in fact, to do something for the workers, rather than simply go there and say, what's going on? Why don't you know what's going on? Because you don't have the legislation. Why don't you have the legislation?
Minister.
These are some of the matters that do concern us. As you know, that the notification, the company has given 6 months notification, but when it comes to severance and justification, those matters have not been clarified, or the reasons not given to us. But those are some of the questions that we will be asking their officials tomorrow.
Final.
I have to answer you.
Order. Final supplementary, the member for Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, I don't think it's good enough for the minister to merely tell us what the questions he's going to be asking. I think what this House and what the people of Lakeshore would like to hear from the minister is a commitment that he will demand from that company a public justification of the action that they've taken. And that he will also be prepared to implement some kind of adjustments that will cushion the wider community as well as the workers for the effects of this closure. And I'd like the minister to tell us now and give us a commitment that that's what he's going to do.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I will certainly make known to our officials and to the company officials the comments that you have made today and the questions that you have raised.
New question. New question, the member for York South.
Boy, anybody declared moral bankruptcy in the province of Ontario today, it's the Minister of Industry and Trade. That's what we've received a declaration of. Utter powerlessness in the face of corporate greed. That's what we're looking at, utter powerlessness.
Question to which minister?
Speaker, a question to the Attorney General, the Minister for Women's Issues, about the legislation that he introduced today. I wonder if the Attorney General can confirm that as a result of the legislation which the government has introduced, that in fact half of the women of Ontario will not be covered by pay equity legislation by the year 1990.
I don't think that's correct. I think what we can say is that over 60% of the women in the workforce will be covered within 3 years after proclamation. That is, wage adjustments will begin for them within that period.
Supplementary.
That wasn't too positive. Well, Mr. Speaker, if you want to get a chance to change your answer, I'll give you a chance. But I can tell you, Attorney General, your answer is incorrect. Your arithmetic is wrong, to put it politely. And in fact, you are leaving far more women out in the cold for a longer period of time than you've been prepared to admit in the House today. My second supplementary, Mr. Speaker, to the Attorney General has to do with the fact that, the question to the Minister, there's a requirement that employers set aside 1% of payroll for equal pay when it is eventually introduced into the 1990s. I'd like to ask the Attorney General, is there anything in this legislation which would prevent an employer from systematically reducing other pay increases in order to meet that 1% of payroll?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, on the figures, my understanding, and I'll check to correct them, is that 60% of those who are covered by the pay equity legislation that's precisely the same, of the female workforce, will have adjustments made by the commencement of, will commence adjustments by the 3rd year of the plan. If that is incorrect, I'll undertake to let the honourable member know. The answer to his second question is no.
Final supplementary, the member for Ottawa Centre.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if we could ask the minister to take a look at his own green paper again.
and to refresh his memory about how many women are going to be covered when under this kind of legislation. Because my reading of the Green Paper says that those people who will be covered, those women working in the labor force who will be covered after 6 years of this planning process, represent 49% of the women who work in the private sector and the private sector only. So what you're offering us is a piece of legislation for women in the private sector, half of whom won't see anything for 6 years.
Minister?
Speaker, 85% of the working women in this province are going to be covered by this bill. It is true that the bill is a staged approach to the problem in the sense that wage adjustments are paid out starting at different dates and over a period of time. There is no other responsible approach to the problem than that. The NDP, of course, in two areas where it had governments, British Columbia and Manitoba, never introduced any legislation for pay equity in the private sector. And when the honourable member, as she does today, says outside the House that I am spineless, that this government is spineless, she'll want to remember that when the NDP formed governments, did they introduce pay equity in the private sector? No, because they were gutless and they had majority.
New question? On with the next question. Order. The Leader of the Opposition, new question.
We're the good guys now, haven't we?
That's right. The attorney should have stuck to his first strategy of trying to get the member for Ottawa Centre excluded from the House so he wouldn't have to face her questions today, rather than lose his temper as he so often does.
That's right.
I have a question again for the Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology. The Minister will know that his leader has been talking a great deal about his concern about the Auto Pact being renegotiated, at the same time at which the Goodyear plant and others are shedding employment in the auto sector, thus effectively undermining that most important sector, notwithstanding the rhetoric. The member will also know that there's been a large announcement from his own government about what was billed as a $1 billion high technology fund, chaired by the Premier himself. I wonder if now, as we're 3/4 of the way through the year almost, with only 4 months left in the fiscal year, the Minister could tell us how many times the Premier's Technology Fund Council has met and how much of the $100 million set aside for this year they have distributed so far.
Minister?
The Council, I believe, has met on 3 occasions, although there have been many meetings of staff with some of the Council members. At this point, only a very small amount of money has flowed, basically because we want to be able to set the proper criteria before any funds do flow. But funds we have in receipt. We have in receipt, I believe, over 250 applications from people who are looking for funding, but we do want to make sure that the criteria is properly set before they flow.
Supplementary?
Well, the Minister, I'm sure, has inadvertently forgotten the one commitment made so far by the High Technology Fund, which is $17.5 million to the Premier's associate, Abe Schwartz, for Exploricom in the heart of downtown Toronto. $17.5 million, I would remind the Minister, which probably is 2 or 3 times the value of the Goodyear plant, which is closing right under his nose in another part of the city. My question for the Minister is this: could he confirm the figures put out in answer to our question on the order paper number 397, that so far to date, out of a $100 million high technology fund, with jobs disappearing at an incredible rate in the auto sector in particular, so far you've dispersed $114,000, in this case all of it to the University Research Incentive Fund, and that the administrative costs are almost as large. $99,700. Could you explain why, with jobs being shed all over the province, you are in a circumstance after 7 or 8 months of the Premier's Technology Fund to be in a position where you spent $200,000, half of it in administration, and not one cent to keep a job in Ontario?
We better find another oil company.
Mr. Speaker, as I stated, I believe those are the correct figures, and that's all that has flowed in this particular fund. But we plan to be a little more careful on how we disperse money from this government than you did. Than you did with Suncor and some of the Idea Corporation.
That's right, by a lot.
The member for Windsor Riverside would like to ask a question, if he could get your attention. The member for Brantford might control himself, and the member for Windsor Riverside will ask his question then.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question to the Minister of Health. I'm wondering if the Minister of Health knows that last week charges against a nursing home in Windsor, Beacon Hill Nursing Home, 18 charges which were laid in November of 1984, were quashed by the Justice of the Peace, Ron Griffiths, because he said, and I quote, "The delay has been unreasonable and the only remedy available to the court is to quash both informations, because your ministry and the Ministry of the Attorney General haven't dealt with this case in 2 years in the courts."
Nice work, Murray.
Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that the matter was quashed by the JP, but I can tell the honourable gentleman that it wasn't for lack of preparation nor for being ready. The question was delayed for some time because of the delay through to the Supreme Court of decisions which you knew were being taken on the Elm Tree matter. Those things caused considerable delay, and I can tell the honourable gentleman that we are in the process now of reviewing the opportunities to appeal that decision.
Supplementary.
Speaker, the fact of the matter is there were charges still left after the decision of Elm Tree. There were some charges withdrawn and some remained, yet still your ministry didn't proceed on this court case. I'd like to ask the minister, does he not think that such charges as not reporting injury or lack of adequate staffing or failure to reassess residents or failure to provide restorative care, to mention a few of the charges, are serious enough? And doesn't he understand that the owners of the nursing homes in this province are laughing at you because of your lack of action on amendments to the Nursing Home Act? When are you going to bring in amendments and take this matter seriously?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have taken this matter very seriously indeed, and we in fact have conducted very wide-reaching consultation with respect to the amendments to the Nursing Homes Act. I can tell the honourable gentleman, Mr. Speaker, that the hearing itself was scheduled to take place very soon after the Elm Tree decision came down. I can tell the honourable gentleman that in fact we're looking to appeal the dismissal of those cases because I, like he, believes that those charges are very serious infractions and ought to be dealt with. We are looking at the opportunities that we have to appeal that case, and I can tell the honourable gentleman that the amendments to the Nursing Homes Act, which he had a copy of or a draft of several weeks ago, are coming through the system and will be in front of this House before Christmas.
New question. The member for Nipissing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to the Solicitor General, last week information came to light that the Solicitor General had broken the law, and indeed, as Chief Law Officer, the Crown ordered members of the OPP to break the law. This breach took place a few days before the Minister made a major statement announcing a province-wide crackdown on drinking voters. Wednesday and Thursday you were away. Your staff refused to acknowledge where you were, refused to give us any information on the many questions we have. I presume you were reflecting on tendering your resignation. Perhaps you were off voting for 4 or 5 days, who knows. My question to you, sir, in light of this, and in light of the 4 or 5 days that you've had to reflect, I would like to know whether you have offered your resignation while this investigation is underway.
Minister.
I'm very proud to stand here and repeat, as I said to the media before, that I did not offer a resignation, nor do I have any intention of tendering any resignation over this particular issue. If you want to check as to where I was on Wednesday or Thursday, business must go on despite what some may raise to try and put you in a frame of mind that would not let you be productive. And I do have another minister, namely that of Correctional Services, which I was working on some issues of that on Wednesday. And on Thursday, if you want to check, I was at St. Lawrence College speaking to the Gerontological Society, who have concerns about health care for seniors, and in order to be there on time with the snow weather we had, I was absent from this House.
Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, while questions were raised in the legislature on Wednesday and Thursday and the minister was away, we've had no statement today. The treasurer indicated that nobody else had been appointed to act on matters concerning this investigation, that we should go to the Solicitor General himself. I'd like to ask the Solicitor General then if he feels qualified and comfortable in answering questions to do with this investigation. Such questions were asked that have not been answered are on how many occasions has the boat in question been used by yourself and other members of the Cabinet? Questions like the 60 people in the Kingston area who have been charged with the same offense that you have admitted to. Should they be? Are you prepared to throw out those 60 charges? Are you comfortable answering those questions? Should we be dealing with you on this matter?
It's my information that the questions were answered very adequately by both the Treasurer and the Attorney General on 2 days in question, and that, as you know, a report has been ordered by the Attorney General into the entire issue, and when the issues that have been raised by questions are dealt with in that report, they'll be made available to all members of this House.
New question, the member for Hamilton West.
Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Education, with respect to an imminent crisis in adult education that will come with the transfer of taxes from the separate to the public boards from the public to the separate boards on January the 1st. The Minister will know that countless numbers of both adult separate ratepayers and adult public ratepayers take their adult education from the public boards in this province. All through the Bill 30 debates, that question was before us, and his ministry assured us that existing regulations and legislation would cover that matter. I wonder what the minister's response is now that the Metro Public Board has a legal decision which tells them, and presumably the rest of us, that public boards may not legally use public ratepayers' money to provide adult education for separate school adults, separate ratepayer adults.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for his question. He correctly recalls the circumstances of the debate in the Standing Committee vis-a-vis Bill 30 and adult education. I have done what I said I would do, which was consult widely. I have retained Jane Dobell, a very distinguished representative of the public school community, and asked Mrs. Dobell to prepare recommendations on the basis of her expertise and her own consultation. She has done that, and I want to tell the honourable member and colleagues in the Assembly that within a very, very few days, but certainly this week, I expect to be making a statement on this very important matter of adult education here in the Assembly.
Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think we would all have to recognize that this issue is very critical one for countless numbers of adults who are taking English as second language, French as second language courses, adult education programs for credit in general, and for basic education in particular. And it's critical how the minister is going to respond. I wonder if I can ask him whether he can assure the House that he will not respond with a mechanism that in effect caps the absolute amount of grant for adult education, that it will not foster duplication among the boards in the field of adult education, that it will provide reasonable compensation across the boards, and that it will not result in any adult being denied access to the programs of adult education on any board, regardless of their assessment.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I want to say to the honourable member that in this matter, as in so many others related to to-school policy, I am very anxious that there not be needless duplication. I must say, parenthetically, Mr. Speaker, to my friend from Hamilton West, that it was with no little bit of disappointment that I noted in the papers last week certain individuals in the school community in metropolitan Toronto who were raising this as a concern, but on the other hand doing very little from what I could see or hear to provide the right kind of climate for consultation and dialogue. Very little, very little. Well, you know, Mr. Speaker, the member from Scarborough Centre intervenes. He has not been leading. He has not been leading the parade, Mr. Speaker, by way of providing advice. And my colleague from Hamilton West and I will well remember what this party did in government to continuing in adult education. They eviscerated the program, Mr. Speaker. And we, of course, have no interest in that kind of policy. I say to my colleague, Mr. Speaker, that he will be anxious to be in the House later this week to hear the statement, which I hope will address all of his concerns. And I want to share with him the view that adult education is a very important part of public education, and we want to see it proceed in a very orderly and cost-effective fashion.
New question, the member for Nipissing.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the Solicitor General what advice he is giving the Ontario Provincial Police as far as policing similar charges to the one that he is admitted to committing this summer.
Mr. Speaker, I do not give any specific instructions to the police on regards to the matter. As you know, the rules are written down and they enforce them with their own discretion as they see fit.
Supplementary, the member for Nipissing.
Mr. Speaker, I think the members of this House and the members of the public would find it impossible to believe that the police force and the OPP out there, who are charged with enforcing the laws, do not have some question about what they should be doing during this period of covered-up investigation, which we don't know how long will be, or who's doing it, or what's going on. Could I
question?
Could I ask
question
the Attorney General, given my comments on his previous answer,
I wasn't the minister.
if he is aware of what is happening
Big difference.
with those charges that have been laid against
I'll talk to you about
similar charges that have been laid against other people around the province, and specifically those 60 people who have been charged with the same offense in the same riding as the minister resides.
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, with deference, the reference made by the honourable member just now in his question was to the Attorney General, so perhaps his mind was thinking ahead of his mouth, that since it's a matter of the courts, it should have been directed to the Attorney General. And if that's what he intends, I bow to the Attorney General. If he wishes it to me, I'll answer.
New question, the member for Algoma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question to the Minister of Consumer and Commercial Relations regarding insurance. Is the Minister aware that in my riding in the community of Blind River, Mr. Venturi, the owner of the Lincoln Hotel, who has had only 3 minor claims in the past and who renovated his hotel at a cost of approximately $185,000, installing new burglar alarms, fire alarms, and fireproofing, had his insurance jump from $5,643 last year to $17,595 this year, an increase of 211%. When his former insurer dropped his policy and he had to go to PAVCO. If the minister is aware of that kind of increase, can he indicate what on earth is being done to ensure that tavern and hotel owners in this province are able to obtain affordable liability insurance so that they and the members of the public are protected?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of that specific incident, but I certainly am aware of many things like that have happened to tavern owners. I've heard from them, and I can say that the Ontario liability insurers have been attempting to provide insurance for those who can't get it or who felt that they couldn't get it, and basically we've been able to resolve that. As far as the cost, that is something that unfortunately I can't do anything about. The marketplace is working. There are people who are out there canvassing other markets and coming up with premiums that they can deal with.
The minister should be aware that in this particular case, Mr. Venturi went to the Ontario Liabilities Insurers and they referred him to PAVCO, which is apparently the only company in this country that is providing this kind of insurance. And as long as PAVCO provides insurance, even if it's at ridiculously high rates, then he can't get any assistance from the Ontario Liability Insurers. Is the minister aware that Mr. Venturi and many other tavern owners like him are not going to be able to increase the premiums that they're paying, cannot afford insurance, and so will operate next year if they are not already operating without any liability insurance? And if he is aware of that, could he please tell us how many tavern owners in this province have no liability insurance, and what is he going to do to ensure that not only they can obtain insurance, but that it's affordable?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I disagree with the member when he says that they will operate without any liability insurance. I'm not aware of any tavern owner in Ontario who is operating without liability insurance. We have set up the Ontario liability insurers to cover those people who cannot get insurance. And if insurance is available in the marketplace, and you say that PAVCO is providing it, then the competitive forces are in action. And there are companies that can meet it. And that's how the system is working.
New question. Order. New question, the member for Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Energy. The Minister of Industry, Trade and Technology indicated today that you and your government have some concerns about corporate takeovers. So we'll assume that those concerns can be translated into Bill 142. And since you withdrew Bill 142 from the order paper last Thursday, we can only assume that you wanted some time to consider the amendment that we said we would put forward. Would the minister not agree that determination of Ontario Hydro's wholesale electrical rates should be made by a tribunal following a public hearing?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, according to the member and his question relating to the bill that was to be put forward, the bill was to protect the consumers in Ontario. And the fact is that there were great difficulties in designing a bill if we were going to reach up through corporate structures to do that. The bill was designed to put a picket fence around the distributor and make absolutely certain that the distributors were protected. Now that's the question as relates to the bill. If you have another question, I'd be pleased to answer it.
Supplementary.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. If the minister does not like the amendment that we put forward that would protect consumers from Ontario Hydro putting in place electricity rates above those that are necessary, if the minister does not like our amendment, can we be assured that he will be introducing his own amendment that would require wholesale electricity rates to be set by the Ontario Energy Board?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it's obvious that a former minister doesn't quite understand the system. There's a great concern with this new minister that would impact on our borrowing from other jurisdictions if we were to step in and do that. That has to be taken into account, and it's a very important issue that we're examining now. This government does not put bills forward until we understand the complete ramification of the bill and it's how it's going to impact on the people of Ontario.
New question, the member for Essex North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Agriculture and Food. As the Minister will know, the Ontario Institute of Agrologists released an important report on the future of the agricultural sector. The report shows that on a dollar-to-dollar basis, American and European economic community governments provide far greater assistance to farmers than does Canada. As an example, it's estimated in 1986 that Canadian assistance to barley producers is 33 cents a bushel, whereas in the U.S. it is $1.06, and the European Economic Community, $3.11 a bushel. Does the minister agree that under these conditions our farmers cannot compete no matter how efficient they are?
Minister?
Well, our farmers have done a very good job in competing up to this point in time, and I agree that we're caught in the crossfire of a trade war between the United States and the European Economic Community, and it's true that about 50% of the farmers' income in the United States comes by way of government subsidy due to this last Food Security Act. About 70% of the farmers' income from the European Economic Community comes by way of subsidy, so that makes it very, very difficult to compete. But we are competing, and we will continue to provide programs both at a federal and provincial level to see that our farmers can remain in a competitive situation. But I have to tell you, sir, that we do not have the treasury in this province or in this country that the United States has and that the European Economic Community has for very obvious reasons.
Supplementary?
Well, I think that the minister knows that price supports are only part of the answer, and he knows that financial assistance is only part of the answer. And he knows that people in the food production industry have had a bellyful of discussion, consultation, and review of these questions by governments. What they need is help in the short term and a greater certainty in the long term. Can the minister tell us today when his government will spell out to the more than 500,000 people working in the food production sector exactly what its policy is for the long term, so that they can know what to expect in the years to come and plan their future accordingly?
The member is well aware of the fact that the National Agricultural Strategy was tabled at the first Ministers' Conference in Vancouver last week. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that agriculture is once again taking the lead, because it's the first time in the history of this country that provincial ministers and federal ministers have been able to get together to devise a national agricultural strategy so we can take our place in the global market as a country and not competing against the treasuries of other provinces. That is a step forward, sir. We have a framework upon which we will build, and we will build, and we will come out with programs that will run over a longer period of time. In the meantime, we have to address the difficulties that farmers are facing with what you might call short-term programs, and I have announced today a very enhanced offer program which, contrary to what the official opposition critic says, is a better program than they are offering in either Alberta, in Saskatchewan, or in Michigan. We're very proud of this program, and so are the farmers.
New question, the member for Durham York.
Yes, a question for the Minister of Agriculture. In spite of the minister's rhetoric, the property tax rebate program here in Ontario is still the biggest assistance program to Ontario farmers in total dollars. Why is the forms to the farmers about 3 months late going out this year?
Minister?
Well, perhaps that question should be addressed to another ministry other than this ministry. But it could be due to the postal situation that we have in this country, where I understand that 4 cents of the 34 cents is actually spent on delivering the mail, and the other 30 cents is storage. So maybe you should talk to your counterparts in Ottawa.
Well, it's very clear from the minister's answer that he didn't have the foggiest idea that the rebate forms were even late this year. And I guess I would ask, last year, as I recall, the assistance to the farmers was there in place in time for the last payment of taxes to the farmers. I wonder if the minister could tell me how many millions of dollars your delay has saved your government to put over into other agricultural programs.
Well, a very short answer would be none of it.
New question, the member for Sudbury East.
I have a question of the Minister of Labor, Mr. Speaker, regarding Robert Hunt, a company which has been able to violate the Occupational Health and Safety Act for the last 6 years with impunity, including such things as 39 workers sent to hospital in March of this past year on one day and 13 another for toxic substance on the floor, excessive hours of overtime. In fact, is the minister aware that the union finally gave up trying to get help from the Ministry of Labor and took Robert Hunt to arbitration for threats against staff by the supervisor, and they have won that arbitration under Section 24 of the Act. Can the minister tell me if he's now prepared to lay charges against Robert Hunt for their action against the employees?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm aware I've heard something of a recent arbitration regarding a reprisal incident, a reprisal allegation. I haven't had a chance to look at it personally. I'll be having a look at the results of the arbitrator's finding, and I'll let the honourable gentleman know, and the honourable gentleman and indeed the company would see in due course what actions we would take, if any.
Supplementary?
Well, since your ministry has a policy of not prosecuting if there in fact is a successful arbitration, and since this excludes two-thirds of the workers who cannot go to arbitration because they don't have the right in this province, are you prepared to change the policy of your ministry and prosecute where intimidation has been proved? And when you're reporting to us, whenever it is, would you tell us how many times the ministry has prosecuted under Section 24 of the Act?
Minister?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think on the latter, I think my friend would find that it would take some period of time to gather statistics, and I would guess, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I would guess, to be fair to the honourable gentleman, that the statistical number would not be high. I must say, Mr. Speaker, in a general sense, I would indicate to the member and to my colleagues in the House, Mr. Speaker, that in a general sense, as we look at amendments to the Act, which will be coming forward later this session, the issue of workers' right of refusal and indeed actions to protect workers in the event of reprisals ranks very high on the list. I don't believe, Mr. Speaker, that we can move forward in terms of the rights of workers to refuse unless we are very, very tough on what happens when reprisals take place, and in ensuring that if there are reprisals, provable reprisals, that the ministry and that the government will be, through our Act, will be very tough in terms of those reprisals.
New question, the member for Durham York.
I have another question to the Minister of Agriculture. I noticed the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Revenue ran over and whispered in his ear about property tax relief. We'll see what he whispered about this one. You are requiring beef producers to pay $6.60 per head as they register their cattle, but yet your ministry only sent the tapes for the second quarter payment to Ottawa about 2 weeks ago for the $13.20 payment on the tripartite stabilization for the second quarter. Again, how many $1 million is this delay in payment saving the government and costing the beef producers of the province?
Minister?
It's obvious, Mr. Speaker, that the member knows not of what he's talking about.
That's for sure.
And it's about the third time that I've responded to the same question, and I've tried to impress upon the honourable member that we have sent all the information to Ottawa whereby this is compiled. So my suggestion would be that you contact your counterpart in Ottawa to see why it is that they are delaying in getting the information and the payments back to the farmers. It's not our fault that the delay is taking place, because we get the information to Ottawa as expeditiously as possible.
What you do, walk it
Supplementary?
Well, I would like to believe that, but I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, there are many others in the province that have phoned and questioned his own ministry staff, and they don't believe that answer the minister just gave. I would like to quote Henry Ediger of your ministry, who said the subsidy for beef cattle would have been $46 a head, not $13.20, had the aid program been in full effect since the beginning of the year. Now, we know that you signed the stabilization agreement 2 months before any other government signed. We also know that your position on the payments got to Ottawa at least 6 weeks and maybe 2 months later than the position of Alberta. How much did your indecision and delay cost the beef producers of the province of Ontario?
Well, the fact that I signed 2 months before any other Minister of Agriculture signed shows that the leadership we display in this province. Mr. Speaker, if we go back in history a wee bit, we'll find that the previous government tried to get a tripartite stabilization program in place for 4 years. And when I became the minister, it was only a matter of months before we had a tripartite program in place. So, you know, we have moved. We have got a program in place, and I think the honourable member is well aware of the fact that there is a committee composed of livestock producers and composed of provincial and federal government people who are responsible for this program. It's not this Minister of Agriculture that makes the rules and regulations. It's a committee. It's a committee of beef producers. Turn up the volume.
I'll recognize the member for Oakwood as soon as the other members are finished. The member for Oakwood.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Municipal Affairs. The minister will remember that on July the 10th, I presented a petition in this legislature with well over 3,200 signatures from residents of the city of York, telling your government that on one hand, they're paying the highest rate of property taxes in metropolitan Toronto, and on the other hand, they have probably the worst level of municipal services in metropolitan Toronto. These residents are demanding, sir, the special direct grants from your government be established to meet this crisis. Your answer to the petition that you provided in October was, at best, confusing, very confusing. So let me ask you the very direct question, and that is, will you provide direct grants so that the people of the city of York will not have to pay the highest property tax and have the least municipal services in metropolitan Toronto?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I agree with the honourable member that York may be paying the highest municipal taxes because of their low commercial and industrial base. But at the same time, Mr. Speaker, we do, once a year, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs compensate municipalities with lower commercial and industrial tax base. And only recently I turned over $3.5 million in resource equalized assessment to the city of York. So I think that the 3.5 will compensate for some of the low growth that's happening in New York, but Mr. Speaker, I cannot resolve the total low growth of York.
Supplementary.
The minister, of course, will know that the $3.5 million that he's talking about has been given to the city of York from 1983, 1984, 1985, and 1986. So therefore, it's nothing new. They've had this grant for a while. But doesn't the minister remember, and if he flips over the page which I provided for him, that in May of 1984, the leader of the Liberal Party of that time, the opposition party in this legislature, David Peterson, asked the people of the city of York to go and convene at the municipal offices a special meeting regarding your high property taxes. Are we saying that in 1984, the Liberals acknowledged the fact that they were high property taxes when they could have not done anything about it, but now that they can do something about it, they're saying that they can do nothing about it?
Minister?
Mr. Speaker, I just agreed with the member that York are paying the highest municipal taxes. I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm agreeing with you. But at the same time, I'm providing the York, not only the city but the region, with resource equalization grants. That's what we're doing. But this year, we looked at all the low-growth areas, and Northern Ontario and Eastern Ontario showed that their growth was lower still than York, and this is why that Eastern Ontario and Northern Ontario were better compensated, but your day will come. I cannot help the low growth of York because of their low commercial and industrial tax base.
New question. The member for York East.
Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Citizenship and Culture. There are a number of groups, Mr. Speaker, in York East who are very concerned about the settlement of refugees in the province of Ontario. Some of these groups are already making inquiries about how they can assist these refugees in their settlement. And my question to the Minister, Mr. Speaker, is what are the policies of her ministry with respect to the settlement of refugees in Ontario?
Minister?
Well, as you know, Mr. Speaker, and my honourable colleague, Ontario really takes total responsibility for all of the settlement services of refugees, and that information is given out widely through the ministry. One of the avenues in which it is given out is through our welcome houses, which are represented both in Toronto and in Hamilton. And we are also endeavouring to establish closer relations with the federal ministries of immigration, also in terms of dealing with other ministers. And I can assure you that working with communities, because indeed we do have the infrastructure, that the communities are very much linked into establishments such as Welcome House. So if the people of Ontario would like to help contribute as they have in dealing and homing our refugees, Ontario welcomes them and will welcome their involvement.
Supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. My supplementary to the Minister has to do with the coordinating efforts with the federal government. Can the Minister tell me in a little more detail what those efforts have been to date?
Minister?
We've had a number of representations at the ministry level with a working committee as such, dealing with the Minister, Mr. Wiener, who have attempted to coordinate in as humanitarian a way as possible the links that are necessary. Those links, as you know, have also been made dealing with various church groups, with community groups, and I'm confident that any peoples who do arrive in Ontario by choice will receive the kind of safe harbor that they so desire, and that anyone wishing to know the coordinating links may simply either contact our ministry or any of the welcome houses or immigration or refugee offices located right across this country.
New question, the member for Burlington South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a question for the Minister of Health. Minister, it's been over a year since you first announced that there would be some new drug pricing legislation, and pharmacists and consumers have been waiting for 2 years for a new formulary, which will enable consumers to benefit from price reductions on some drugs and will add to the list lower-cost generics which have come onto the market since then. You have announced the December 1st formulary, and normally current pricing adjustments occur 1 month later on January 1st. My question, Mr. Speaker, is, Minister, what will you do to ensure this formulary will reflect current changes and will be in sequence with the market?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have put together, with the best information available under our current circumstances, information which will reflect the prices which we've been able to arrive at on the basis of what is known as the best available price, which was the amendment which was suggested in the Legislative Committee by the opposition parties, speaking on behalf of some of the associations, notably the Ontario Pharmacists Association, That material has been assembled to the best of our ability from information gathered under our existing system. We're looking forward to the December 1st proclamation date as a time when that new formulary will be put into effect with, I think, some new prices which will indicate that there will be some savings. There will be additions of some of the new drugs as well, which the member has indicated. And in addition to that, we hope that we can deal also effectively with the federal excise tax, which has been an abiding concern and problem for pharmacists and consumers right across this province. So everything will come to us and be put in place by the 1st of December, and that will be the date when we will start adjusting according to the new formulary.
Supplementary.
Well, after 2 years, it's hopeful that your staff will be assembling more pricing information than the information which was available prior to the beginning of November. Will the minister be asking for prices effective January 1st, or is it your intention to keep the formulary out of date so that consumers will be unable to gain immediate advantages of price reductions and be forced to wait months for less expensive new generic drugs that will be added to the list?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there are several parts to that question which I think bear answering, although I will be brief in my response. First of all, I thank the honourable gentleman for pushing so avidly for generics in light of the fact that his federal counterparts are wishing to eliminate the generic advantages that our system has had for the past several years. I can tell, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman is not particularly up to date on what all of us have as a party put forward as our position, which I have as a minister in charge and of carriage of this particular situation met very often with, not very often, not nearly often enough, with the federal colleagues who have seen me in May and June of last year. I can tell the honourable gentleman, Mr. Speaker, that we will continue to adjust and reflect the need for changes in the formulary as the information comes to us. We are helpful or thankful for your help in suggesting that the prices be lower because I think that we would all like to strive for competitiveness in the marketplace, and in fact we would all like to save the consumers some money, and I'm willing to work along with the honourable gentleman, Mr. Speaker, to help save the consumers money in the province of Ontario.
Order.